For the last time, Sally, there are no such things as ghosts. Especially not Jewish ones.
No, Pete. Especially not called Yetta Feldman.
Especially not called Yetta Feldman. Good night, Sally.
Good night, Pete.
Good night, Sally.
Good night, Mrs. Feldman.
Morning, cruel world. Sally, there's a positive, rational explanation for what happened last night.
Pete, your son and I both saw her.
Mass hysteria. Old houses save up vibrations from the past and people pick them up. That's like viruses. Actually, I think I might be coming down with something myself.
Oh, no, not the hypochondria.
If you get some pills, I might not be a hypochondriac.
Now, come on, we've got to lick our new home into shape.
Blah! And listen, no more ghost talk in front of Tammy. She's at a very sensitive age.
Spoken by the world's longest-running 39-year-old.
I'll get some trousers on and I shall start unpacking the debris of my life. Watch it. No, not those. I don't want to get those dirty. I need... Who did that?
There must be a virus in the wardrobe.
Good morning, Sally. I hope you slept well.
So, Mrs. Feldman, you?
Like a dead person.
Pete, she's here, Mrs. Feldman.
She's doing one of her celebrated bedspread impressions.
You still can't see or hear her.
No, Sally, it's funny that, isn't it?
He wears this to bed.
Oh, I think it's quite sexy.
What is?
Pneumonia? That's not so sexy.
Oh, Sally, you're just overstretched. The people who can help, my little electrician.
Pete, I think you should...
Sally, if it was Errol Flynn prancing around in his unmentionables, it wouldn't bring the colour back to my cheeks.
Oh, Mrs. Feldman.
Oh, that's it. The joke's over. I'm going to the garden. I'm going to commune with living things.
Tell him to dress warmly. Could catch his death.
Dress warmly, you could catch your death.
I've lost my job. My wife's lost her marbles.
Vetch. He's always so moody in the mornings.
Only when he's... Mrs. Feldman, we would appreciate a little privacy.
Sally, you only have to ask. You know, Sally, my daughter Paula would be about your age now. 40. What did I do to drive her away so many years ago? Am I so difficult to live with?
Well, Oh, that's my mother. I know her ring.
Every daughter ought to have a mother. Pick it up. Tell her I'm looking after you.
What's Daddy doing in the garden, Sammy?
Probably digging an escape tunnel. I suppose Mum will want us to tidy up this veruca today. Tedious.
I want to play with Mrs. Feldman.
You are making up all this ghost stuff, all of you, just to give me zips.
She tells me stories in my bedroom.
David, ghosts don't tell stories, they're in them.
Well, mine does, and she always a lot.
She walks a lot.
Always. Oi, oi, oi.
David, if you do not admit that you're making all this up, I'll bury Eric in the garden.
I'm not making it up. You okay, Eric? Boobala? Oi, oi, oi.
Anyway, get the bucket, will you? Thanks. Anybody old hacienda, eh? Place a Rottweiler like you could really defend to the death. Now listen, anyway. Don't laugh. But your mistress thinks we're haunted. Yep. The curse of the three-bedroom semi. No. She has been under a lot of strain. I'm just going to fix that window.
Greenberg, did you sleep well? Mr. Kaufman, I hope I didn't wake you. Mrs. Doe?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Have you heard the news? There's been a hurricane.
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
Caribbean today, Willesden tomorrow. I hope you're settling in. I'm Herbert Bloom.
Peter Rugby, this is Hemingway. How are you?
Arthritic, hypertensive, and a martyr to flatulence. Still mustn't grumble. Eh, Mrs. Gold?
Who are you talking to?
All my friends. Every time I lose a friend, I plant something. I've a lovely garden, Mr. Rokeby, but sadly, not so many friends. Oh, by the way, they found a rat as big as a dog at number 42.
Steady, boy. So, who's that?
Mr. and Mrs. Hirsch. They did everything together. And that's Mr. Rubinstein.
You don't know.
Yes, Mr. Rokeby?
No, it's ridiculous.
Isn't everything?
You didn't know Mrs. Feldman? No, of course.
Yetta Feldman? Oh, did I know Yetta Feldman? Who didn't? The Pope, perhaps. Even then.
And she used to live round here?
You could say she still does, Mr. Rokeby.
Pete, are you out there?
She had a mouth even rigor mortis wouldn't shut. Think you've met her?
No. No, but I think my wife might have had the pleasure.
You're reading a novel in that shed.
Very careful, Mr. Rokeby. Yetta's a very possessive woman. Her daughter only just got away from her in time.
You've seen her, have you?
Pete, my mother's coming for tea.
There's been cholera in India. Best to boil your water.
Yes, I'd better. You must pop round.
Oh, let me just show you my Mrs. Feldman.
You're Mrs. Feldman?
Mother-in-law's tongue. It's on forever.
Well, I think your father's gone into hiding.
Have you two had a row? Will I be the product of a broken home?
For the last time, Daddy and I do not intend to split up just so that you won't feel out of it at school. Now work! Grandma is about to descend.
Well, won't she be impressed? Which grandpa is she bringing today?
Now that's not fair. She only marries them one at a time. So far. Some of these stains are as stubborn as you are.
Mom, cool it. You're not even being paid. Hey, how's Dad going to pay for my new 501s if he hasn't got a job?
Ah, yes, well, we've been worrying about that too. Tammy, freelance advertising writers are in great demand. You'll see.
And can we sell this orifice and move back home?
We can't leave Mrs. Feldman, Mummy.
Don't you worry about Mrs. Feldman.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm radio tedious. Let's start some old dead people. Terrific.
I found these in the garden.
Who's buried there?
Oh, Pete, they're lovely. Can't stop, Mummy.
Oh, yes. Mother Superior. Any danger of having any breakfast? Hey, David?
You were going to fry out one of your famous coronary specials.
You're right. The old stover.
Where did you get to?
I met our new old neighbour. Sally, I think we've got to talk about...
About?
Sally, is your husband doing what I think he's doing?
Mrs. Feldman.
Shh! Why do you think I'm whispering?
Cooking bacon in a Jewish house. You want to kill me?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Pete, Mrs. Feldman doesn't like the bacon.
Well, Mrs. Feldman needn't have any. Sally, where is she?
Hello?
I thought you said there wasn't a ghost.
Well, I'm prepared to admit there might be a little one.
Ah, so I'm not.
David, would you go and tidy your room?
Are you going to tell me another story, Mrs. Feldman?
Oi, I could bite lumps out of him. It's an expression.
What are these stories? The little tin solicitor, Snow White and the 7 dermatologists?
Pete, David likes stories.
Who have we got here? Hans Jewish Anderson? And who keeps turning this flaming cooker off? Right. I need 5 minutes quality thinking time and then we act. And stop rubbing that lamp. We don't need a genie as well.
Such anger from nowhere. Sally, you want me to teach you how to make potato latkes?
Oh, Mrs. Feldman, what are we going to do with you?
Just treat me like your own dear mother.
And And then I wrote, ha ha ha, he, resident laughs at gun disease. Thank you. And I wonder if you remember, darling, I could kiss you. You bought Telfer's toilet tissue. Thank you.
How can you play your greatest hits when I've got my mother coming round any minute?
It's the best way I know to relax, apart from, favourite dish, whitefish. Sally! She's got to go.
My mother?
That's a nice thought, but no. The mummy from beyond the grave. She's brainwashing my son. She watches me in my underpants.
So you accept she exists?
It's growing on me, like shingles. I want her out of here, pronto. Call Dial-a-Hearse.
She's an old woman. I think she's lonely.
Oh, well, let's find her a little Jewish gentleman ghost. Sally, she's like everything else around this mausoleum, something we've got to get fixed.
When did you last fix anything? Hang on, I'll get my spirit level. That was rather good.
Sally, call her up or summon her down. I want you to talk to her.
Pete, can't we do it later? Mummy's coming and... Oh, Lord!
Well, all the more reason for our dearly departed to dearly depart. Just call Mrs. Feldman, Sally.
Did someone call me?
Pete, she's here.
OK, Mrs. Feldman.
Well, there.
My Carol used to play the piano, even the black notes.
Mrs. Feldman, this house isn't big enough for the three of us.
You're leaving so soon, you only just got here.
I want you out of here as soon as inhumanly possible. Don't bother to pack.
What, you throw a poor old deceased lady out of her own home?
Yes, I would. What? Who said that?
I did. Cooey! Over here, mister with the loud voice.
I heard that too. I can hear her. Sally, I can hear Mrs. Feldman. This is incredible.
That's because you believe in her, Pete.
Yeah, I do. I believe. And I believe she should bloody well go back where she came from. Valhalla, the other side, Limbo.
Limbo? Peter, you ever been to Limbo? Bournemouth it isn't. It's cold, it's damp, and as for the people, there's no life to them. To tell you the truth, I'd rather be in Willesden.
Well, I've just declared that a ghost-free area.
You're not someone that doesn't like Jewish people.
He's certainly not, Mrs. Feldman.
I just wouldn't want my daughter to be haunted by one. I'm talking to a ghost. Please, leave us be, eh? Just give my love to Attila the Hun.
Sally, you're letting him... After we're getting on so famously.
Well,
Sally?
It's my house! My poor Sam had his heart attack in this room. My Carol walked out through that door. I even choked to death on a chicken bone in that kitchen. It's memories like these that make a house a home.
Pete, she seems harmless.
Yes, we could have had one of those fire-breathing ghosts like they've got at 92. If she won't leave, we'll have to freeze her out. If we ignore her, she can't exist. That's worth a try, starting from now.
I should have told your son the story of the wandering Jew.
Mrs. Feldman...
Sally, she's in Coventry.
Who lives in Coventry? Sally.
Pete...
Not a word. She doesn't exist.
Did I tell you about my Carol's lovely teeth?
Pete, she's fading.
Goodbye, Mrs. Feldman. Have a nice trip.
How does he think I'm going? British Airways? Goodbye, Sally. Goodbye, home.
Pete, she's gone. You've got rid of her.
It's for the best, Sal. And I'll explain to David later. Hey, do you think this will work on your mum?
Seven catches and I'm the master of the universe. Are you going to play me, Mrs. Feldman? Sorry. Auntie Etta. Auntie Feldman?
My granny's coming, all running around like headless chickens.
Not all, Tammy.
Wait till she sees the sphincter we're living in. It's turned my family mental already. Just hope it's not genetic.
Oh. I really go for labourers. You're so earthy.
Why does my doing DIY always make you randy? Mummy will be here in a minute. Go dust something.
Well, might as well start with myself. Peter Rokeby, by disappointment to Her Majesty the Queen Mother-in-Law, Mrs. Musgrove.
Well, not to me. Anyway, she's Mrs. Anstruther now.
Sally, what does it matter what your mother thinks of the house or me?
Yeah, so long as you've got a mother, you never stop being a child.
You sound like Mrs. Feldman, of blessed memory.
Oh, Pete, I feel so cruel about what we did.
Well, one mother's enough for anybody, Sally. Have we got time to play carpenters and housewives? I'll get me pinny.
God, that's her!
I didn't hear the broomstick. Calm down, head up. Just pretend we're very rich and awfully eccentric. Don't pounce, Hemingway, till you see the reds of her eyes. And you don't mention Mrs. Feldman. Mother-in-law, welcome to Rokeby Hall.
Hello, Peter. Sally, darling.
Hello, Mummy. Welcome.
How are you bearing up? You know, I've never been in this area before. Charmed life, I suppose. And how are my little people? Oh, goodness. How can someone as young as me have grandchildren as big as you? Kiss, kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss.
It's, George. Yes, I knew that. We met at the wedding. Come in, please.
Oh, thank you.
Grandma, we've got a goat.
Goat! But he's at the goat minders today. Aye. Good old Billy.
I see you've still got your other animal.
Hemingway, oh, he's like one of the family.
Not one on our side.
Why don't we go into the lounge, then we can have a good old chinwag?
A double chinwag. Watch out for rats the size of dogs.
Goat. The living room. Of course, there's still a lot to be done to it.
I think I'd like to sit down. Oh, George, get rid of that thing before you get Dutch elm disease.
Well,
Well.
Do you mind if I... Oh, thank you.
what would you do with it, Mummy, given a free hand?
Condemn it.
Nice one, Granny.
Oh, no, your father's mother is your granny, dear. I'm just Bunty.
You must see the rest of the house.
Will make you appreciate the lounge.
Thank you for your support, Tammy.
I think a little Dutch courage first. Sally, whatever made you move here in the first place?
I decided to start my own business.
Oh, yes, you lost your job. Sally, I bumped into Roland Askew's mother the other day. She says that he's just bought a villa in Gran Canaria with a swimming pool and a tennis court.
Such a shame he's not allowed back to England to visit her.
Not too much tonic in that, thank you, Peter. You'll drown the gin.
George?
He's driving. Aren't you, George?
Mum, can we go upstairs? We're bored out of
I'll
us.
call you for tea.
Can I go too?
I can't get over the decor, Sally.
Mummy, it is over 20 years old.
Well, I've always said, bad taste is timeless. Not a shame you had to come here in the first place, sir.
Well, I think it's rather sweet.
He does this to provoke me. Oh, dear. That picture's crooked. Oh, what's going on? You know me, I can't abide crooked pictures. Even reproductions. Oh, this is infuriating. Oh, Sally, you do it. Probably the whole house is crooked. Oh, Sally.
I can't stand women who can't hold a drink.
Sally, I must show you my holiday photos. Peter, pour Sally another drink.
Yes, Mom.
And while you're there...
I'll tell you what, let's pretend we're Russians and chuck 'em all in the fireplace.
What a shame you'll never go on a Caribbean cruise, Sally. You'd get so much out of it.
Oh, I'll take her to the boating lake and chuck her a bounty bar.
That's the ship. It was Swedish, wasn't it, George?
Norwegian.
It's the same thing. Well, you're very argumentative these days. And, oh, that's the first-class dining room. Do you see that thing there? That's a sculpture made entirely from ice. Now, what do you think of that?
I'm afraid it leaves me cold.
And we've got some more here, and that's just one of George. Ah, here's something wearing my new bikini. It caused quite a stir, I can tell you. I see little cause for mirth, Sally.
I haven't seen so much red meat since my nephew Brian's bar mitzvah.
Oh, my God.
If you don't want to see them. You only have to say.
No, I do. I'm sorry, Mummy.
I'm not warming to this person, Sally.
This isn't happening.
Where was I?
Gazing wistfully at the Virgin Islands.
Oh, yes, we met that girl in your class. Davina, the one who made such a good marriage to a stockbroker.
You're letting her get away with this? The woman's a monster.
You know, you meet such a nice class of people on board. Of course, there is a bit of a rough element. Loud Jewish families from New York, you know the kind of thing.
You've never seen me angry, Sally. Just watch that plant.
What's happening here?
Mummy, come and see the rest of the house.
Oh, look what Oh, hello, Mrs. Feldman. I thought you'd gone away.
As if I would, my little Davidel.
Sally, who's he talking to?
Mrs. Feldman, she's our
Imaginary friend. David's imaginary friend.
Oh, isn't that sweet, Henry?
It's George, dear.
Mrs. Feldman, that's an odd sort of name, isn't it? It sounds a little, well,
Juvenile! Yes. Yes. No, up and tidy your room. Go on.
I just did. Glitch, glitch, glitch. The whole thing. See you later, Mrs. Feldman.
You know, I had an imaginary friend once. She was called Lucinda. She was always 6 years old. How old is this Mrs. Feldman?
64?
Tell the world.
Do you think that's healthy?
I'll go.
I do hope you don't encourage this Mrs. Feldman business.
We thought we got rid of it. But it seems to be under control.
Good afternoon. So, Yetta Feldman, are you up to your old tricks again?
Herbert Bloom.
You look well, considering. Oh, excuse me, it was very rude of me to barge in like this, but I haven't seen her for a while, have I?
Sally, who is this person?
It's Mr. Bloom. We've just met. He lives next door.
If you call that living.
Yetta, again with the wicked tongue.
But why is he talking to David's imaginary friend?
I don't see so much of her since she died.
George.
Now stop causing mischief.
I really think we should be running along, Sally. I think you're being very brave about everything. Come along, George.
What about tea?
Oh, no. Virginia Water, it's such a long drive.
Not long enough.
George!
Did you scream, dear?
Must you go?
Well, it's so nice meeting you, Mr.
Bloom. Patchy fog near Aberdeen. It could spread.
Come along, George.
We'll leave you two alone.
Sally, I want you to know that there's always room with us if this all gets too much.
Mummy, you've disapproved of my life ever since I met Pete. For some daft reason it mattered to me. Do you know, I think I've suddenly grown up. I don't care if Pete never gets an iota of work. I'll still love him.
Oh, Sally.
He could be begging in the streets and he'd still be my Mr. Right.
Sal?
He could be crawling through muck and slime and I'd still take him.
I think you've made your point, Sal.
Yes, I think you have, Sally. Well, good luck with... Come along, George.
Nice to see you. By the way, like your ghost.
What?
Oh, it's an interest of mine. Don't worry. Stumm. Provided you let me come across and talk to her occasionally.
Anytime you want, George.
She doesn't go out much.
George!
She means well, you know.
I'm very proud of you.
I had a little help from my friends.
Yetta, I haven't seen your Carol since you drove her out 20 years ago.
Drove her out, my own daughter, with her pop singer, her Elvis Parsley. When I saw your mother today, Sally, the way she talked about your husband, I mean, he's no bargain, but you seem to love him. I saw myself, Sally, and it made me so angry inside. Forgive me.
This is the first day I've enjoyed since I lost my job.
So maybe you don't want to get rid of me?
Does he have a choice?
Not until we find my daughter Carol with an E. Then I can rest in peace.
There's just one thing, Mrs. Feldman. The bedroom.
You got problems there, Sally? That I can't help you with.
the problem. We can't. Thinking you might be there.
I'm not great with an audience. A few close friends, maybe.
I promise no bedroom.
Or Lou.
Sally, do me a favour. Which reminds me, how's your problem?
It comes and goes.
You still see Arnold Gold?
He's got cataracts. Both his eyes.
With a wife like his, maybe that's a blessing. There's so much. We haven't even started on bankruptcies yet. Go make yourself a pot of tea.
They have bees in South America that can kill with a single sting.
I'll close the windows.
Estelle Greenblood. She's still got a wooden leg?
How'd you get rid of Granny?
Just set our ghost on her.
If you say just one more time that we have got a ghost, I'm leaving this bedpan for good.
We've got a...
So far, Victor only has one foot in the grave, but he thinks his house is haunted in a moment.